Hey everybody, it's Irene with BrainStormAcres, and we have a lot of things to finish up today. First thing on my list is I have a bunch of herbs that I harvested fresh yesterday. I have let them wilt a bit, but they are ready to go onto my dryers because I want to get those down to the studio where I'm going to run the dehydrator and get those all set to go. So let me get the herbs. Now, these guys are tarragon. I am just going to put the whole stems on here. It's probably better if I peel off the leaves off the stems, but to be honest, I'm in a little bit of a hurry this morning, so I'm just going to see how that goes. I know that for the dill, because they're such a moist plant, I've had better luck when I have removed the stems. We'll see. I just want to get this going. And all I'm doing is setting them on here. I have a whole stack of tarragon in the greenhouse. It is growing gangbusters, and I realized I keep forgetting to dry some for the winter, so it is time. It is past time. That's what it comes down to. It is past time, but I'm going to do it now anyway, so that we will have tarragon, because we don't have any tarragon in the spice drawer. And some of you may have found some of the spices have been difficult to get lately. It's been weird. I can now get things in the grocery store that I could never get before, like Thai basil, but when I went to try and find whole allspice the other day, none. I've been to 3 different locations so far, and the phrase none comes to mind. So I'm going to keep watching, and I'm pretty much going to give up really quick here and see if I can get it online, I think, because I do not want to be without whole allspice. I do use it for mostly canning things, and most of those canning things are done now, but there's a couple more things I'd like to make, and I have ground allspice, but it's not the same. So, yeah. That's a reminder to go to the greenhouse. I've already been out there. It's okay. Now, I picked these last night and allowed them to dry overnight in the theory that less moisture is better. And almost got an entire thing full. Not brain surgery. I just make sure that the quality of the leaves is good, that there's no bugs involved, etc., etc. And I dry them. And I estimate, I haven't dried this before. I've dried dill before. Pretty much takes all day for dill. I expect this to take a bit longer. What I may do is, as these start to dry down, I may pull the leaves off the stems, and that'll speed up the process. But initially, it smells good. I'm going to let this go for now. So I'm going to take this down to the studio and set it up there. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back from the studio. Now, some folks might have a question as to why I would put the dehydrator down in the studio. Well, two main reasons. One of which is I hate white noise. I really do. I don't like the white noise that something like a dehydrator produces. I have hearing problems, and something like a white noise really affects. You know, I can hear the dishwasher here, but it changes tune and it changes speed and all that kind of stuff. Something that's a continuous white noise really screws me up in terms of my hearing. So having it down there, great plan. Second main reason is it's a separate electrical system. So I am not using any electricity that comes in right now for the house. So the studio's on a separate electrical system. I'm not planning to work down there today. We're getting plenty of sun, so that those batteries are chock full. So using power from them just makes total sense. On the third side, it's not super hot today, but the dehydrator does warm up the building. That's great in the wintertime, not so great in the summertime, or like right now it's fall. So I don't need to add any extra heat to the house. I'll be doing enough of that, finishing up some of the other projects today. Right now I'm waiting for my water bath canner and my hot water to come to a boil, get hot, whatever. And I'm going to go ahead and get some jars in here so they are ready to use when I need them. I'm sort of sorting through using the smallmouth jars right now because I have more access to smallmouth jar lids than I do to largemouth jar lids. So I will be taking advantage of that where I can. I've got 3 jars in here right now. I really don't think I'm going to need much more than that. What we're doing, Henry saw, you may have seen, you will have seen Henry. He started it last night. And these are for a pickled pepper. This is a sweet pepper, not a hot one. And we have reds and greens. He topped them off last night, cleaned them up a little bit, took out some of the seeds. We soaked it in a salt water brine, and I'll make sure that the recipe goes in the description. We soaked it in a hot water brine overnight. It's been 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 hours. They say anywhere between 12 and 18 hours, so we're well in that good spot. I'm going to drain these guys and get them ready to go. So I need to check my recipe. Okay, so all we're going to do with these is cook them with a little bit of garlic for just a few minutes. And then we pack them in here. And rinse and drain thoroughly. Rinse and drain, we can do that. We have the technology. I'm gonna bring out my new toy. Well, actually it's not new. It's been around all year and I keep forgetting I own it. It's in a useful spot, but I just keep forgetting I own it. So, you could do this in the sink. I'm not gonna do it in the sink. I'm gonna do it here. Let's see. Maybe I'll just use the other container. Maybe I'll do it in the sink. I don't know. We'll think about this here. I hadn't thought about the base. But this is cool. It's big enough to keep large things from coming out. I actually may not need to do that. We talked about possibly cleaning out a few more of the seeds yesterday. I'm going to put a plate under there just in case there's drips. I don't want the counter to be too wet. But I'm going to use this as an opportunity to clean out a few more of the seeds. Henry says he doesn't care about the seeds, so I'm not going to worry about it extensively. But if they're hanging around looking ready to fall out, I'll just knock them out. If these were hot peppers, I would definitely be a lot more careful about the seeds. There's a huge amount of heat in hot pepper seeds. And a lot of times removing the seeds from hot pepper is the way you calm it down a bit. I'd also be wearing gloves if I was dealing with hot peppers. And I am not, because I am not dealing with hot peppers. These are Godfather peppers. I purposefully harvested red and green because I have a specific plan for packing them into jars that I think will be kind of cool. And I want to make it look pretty. So, yeah, oops. There we go. Get rid of this guy. All right. Now I'm going to roll these under some water just to make sure that I don't feel like there's any extra salt in there, but I'm going to make sure. Woo, drippy. There we go. Now, I have the peppers all set to go, and I need some more ingredients. Got the rest of the stuff. I'd forgotten a couple things. I was thinking of a different recipe. So, what we need for this one is we need a pot with 2 cloves of garlic in it, 1/4 cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons of prepared horseradish. Woo! It'll wake you right up. It's funny, these are not hot peppers, but they will be when this is done. 2 cups of water. I need 2.5 quarts of vinegar. I'm going to pull these. These are just lids that I've warmed up. They're not boiling. I'm going to heat this. While I'm waiting, I'm going to cut these peppers in half as a start. And I can tell that putting them in the salt like that overnight has taken some of the moisture out, which is kind of interesting. They're not dehydrated, but there's definitely like a difference in the moisture content. They want to curl up, and they're just a lot less spongy than peppers usually are, I guess you'd say. My goal is to create very cool looking jars of peppers. Now, why do I want white towels? Well, if you've been paying attention, you'll notice that I've got my jars preheated. Got one more over here I could slide in there if it looks like I'm going to need it. But these jars are preheated. They're very hot. And that's great, but I don't want to shock the glass by putting them on a granite countertop, which has actually got quite a bit of coolness to it. Every time you do that to your jars, you're risking breaking them, basically. You can build up stress in glass, and then at some point that stress is going to release, and that's when it breaks. Now, this has to boil or simmer for 15 minutes. Okay, this is what happens when you don't do the math. So I have everything that I had previously laid out before in here, and I'm going to add the salt. Okay, well, no, I don't need salt. Okay, this is why some of these recipes that I've been using, even though they come from a reputable source, were not well written. And when I write up my recipes, I like to organize them in such a fashion that you don't have to do a bunch of math in order to figure out whether you have any ingredients left over from a previous stage before you use them. So when I read this again carefully, I shouldn't add any salt at this point. But I'm still glad to be able to have all the ingredients in a larger pot. It'll make it come to a boil quicker. It'll just make it a lot easier to deal with. I was thinking of one of my dill pickle recipes, which I can do in that smaller pot, but that's not this recipe. So I'm still going to wait for another 10 minutes before this is ready to go. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to make something else. They say a 1/4-inch headspace on these jars, so we'll do that. I'm always super conscientious about things like that, because that's the best way I know to make a canning job fail, is to not do the headspace correctly. And because I am very paranoid about jars, I will put another one in, because I can always just put it in the dish drainer if we don't need it. But if we need it, then I have to wait. Okay, now what I have to decide is this the size I want these guys? I'm not sure the answer is. I think I want them one size smaller. I think I want them like that. This is kind of funny. I was actually looking at a picture that a girlfriend shared with me the other day of some amazing, like, pickled concoction that somebody had done for a county fair, and they had made all these decorative cut vegetables, and I said, that's really cool, but there's not enough time in the day. But I suppose if you're a competitor, it does make sense. But when I watch the guys in Great Britain going crazy trying to grow the biggest vegetable or the longest carrot or the whatever, and it's cool. I mean, I've seen the same things at the county fairs here. It's just kind of never been my thing to compete that way. I could understand competing in crafts. I understand it. I mean, it makes total sense. It all depends on what your thing is. I am a production gardener. I love my flowers, I love my veggies, and my goal is to produce as many veggies and flowers as I can for the purpose of consumption in the point of veggies, and just plain enjoyment in the point of flowers. And I may not be eating these, but since I'm packing them, I'm going to try and still eliminate some of that extra. Okay, that's a pretty good pack, I think. It's not, how tight do they say to make it? Pack them in. I think that's good enough. That is to let me know that this has been simmering long enough. I'm going to top them off with leaving a 1/4-inch head room here. There we go. Clean the edge carefully. Hot. Okay, this water is warm in here. Very warm. Make sure this is at least, I'm going to have to add some more hot water. This is one of the nice things about having boiling water on your stove, is that you have an easy way to raise the level of your canner if you need to. I would never do this with anything other than boiling water, because there would be the definite risk that I could break those jars. But when I was starting this process years ago, I didn't usually have a thing of boiling water on there, and there were a bunch of times when I had to do an additional kettle of water in order to be able to accomplish my water level that I needed. I like to be generous. They say at least an inch. I like a little more than that because we have to generally cook things a little longer here. Now, this is supposed to be done for 10 minutes. And because of our altitude, we have to add minutes to that. So we are going to be adding 15 minutes. So that means we do this for 25. So I will get a timer set for 25 minutes. And I will start that timer when the kettle has come to a boil. So there we go. Crank this up, and that's it. That was a little less coordinated than usual because I kept thinking of my dill pickle recipe. So I hope this wasn't too chaotic. It's really not that hard, just a little bit crazy. Basically, cut up your peppers the night before and soak them in brine overnight for at least 12 hours, up to 18. Then prep them the way you want them, pack them into hot jars, and add your pickling liquid, which was this stuff. Now, what am I going to do with this extra pickling liquid? I am going to put it in a quart jar, and I'm going to label it because there's nothing wrong with it, and there's a good chance, actually, that I will be making another batch of these before the season is over. So there's no reason to waste that. This jar here has got dill pickle juice in it. Now that I'll have two there, I will need to have them labeled. Usually I just have the dill there. But when I go to make another batch of dill anything, I just dump that in and heat it up as if it was brand new. It doesn't hurt anything. And then that way I'm not wasting anything. It's making noise, but it's not ready. I'm being impatient. So, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell because I have a ton to do, and I may even do some of it today. I'm thinking about making some other pickles today. I have to look through my collection. I have to freeze a bunch of tomatoes because I don't have quite enough to make it worthwhile to make a mess of the kitchen for tomatoes yet. We have a ton of, we have trays, these big gray trays of potatoes that we harvested. So we have a lot of stuff to do. So be sure to come back so you don't miss it because there's always something new going on around here. So until next time, bye.